G'day guys, today we're having a look at the changes so far that we can find to the Monk for Shadowlands and 9.0. Please keep in mind that this is beta and things are subject to change. Let's get into it. So starting off with some changes that affect all specs, we have Expel Harm, which is a new spell. It will instantly heal your target as well as deal 10% of the amount healed as damage to a nearby enemy within 8 yards. It will cost 15 energy and has a 15-second cooldown. For Windwalker, it will generate 1 chi. For Mistweaver, it is affected by your mastery and may be cast during Soothing Mists and will additionally heal the Soothing Mist target. And lastly, for Brewmaster, its cooldown is reduced to 5 seconds and will draw on your healing spheres to increase the amount healed. Really cool. Next, we have dual wielding and two-handed polearm use for both Brewmaster and Windwalker, so no more having to separate weapons for specs, you can just do it all. Fortifying Brew has had a slight change. Now it has a 2-minute cooldown and its increase in health and damage reduction is only 15% down from 20%, but it is now available to all specs. Leg Sweep's range has been increased by 1 yard. Paralysis's cooldown has been changed to 30 seconds down from 45. Spinning Crane Kick is now available to all specs, but it has a target cap of 6. We now have Tiger Palm. It now defines the damage as physical. And lastly, Touch of Death is now available to all specs, but it will no longer explode for the additional 10% of damage dealt during the effect. However, for Brewmaster, it will clear stagger equal to 200% of the damage dealt. That's it for generic changes. Let's dive into Brewmaster. So Iron Skin Brew has been removed, and Shuffle is a new passive that is a big part of the spec. It will increase the effectiveness of your stagger by 100%. You can gain Shuffle by attacking enemies with Keg Smash, Blackout Kick, or Spinning Crane Kick. So Blackout Kick has been name changed from Blackout to Strike and will grant 3 seconds of Shuffle, and now has a 4-second cooldown. Keg Smash will grant 5 seconds of Shuffle, and Spinning Crane Kick will grant 1 second of Shuffle. Also, it causes your gift of the Ox healing spheres to travel towards your location. Brewmaster's Balance will now allow you to dodge and parry while channeling Spinning Crane Kick. Purifying Brew now has 2 charges down from 3 and has a 20-second recharge up from 15. We have Invoke Nizal the Black Ox, which is no longer a talent. Instead, it is baseline for Brewmaster. It will only last 25 seconds though instead of 45 seconds. Purifying Stagger damage, while this is active, will increase the damage of Nizal's stomps by 25% of purified damage, split between all enemies. Zen Meditation now no longer is cancelled when you move, and we have a couple of new spells. So Celestial Brew is a new spell on a 1-minute cooldown that will grant you an Absorb Shield that can be improved based upon the amount of Purifying Brew casts up to 200%. And lastly, Clash is another new spell that is half charge, half grip. You will meet in the middle, as well as rooting all targets within 6 yards for 4 seconds. Quite neat. Let's move on to talents now. So Black Ox Brew has been modified since Iron Skin Brew has been removed. It can no longer reset those charges, so instead it will now reset the cooldown of Celestial Brew. Light Brewing again, since Iron Skin Brew has been removed, it will reduce the cooldown of Celestial Brew and Purifying Brew by 20% instead. Rushing Jade Wind is now capped to 6 targets. Special Delivery has been updated to affect all brews, and Guard has been removed, which leaves the way for some new talents. So Celestial Flame will give you a 30% chance when you drink a brew to gain Celestial Flames for 6 seconds. This will make Spinning Crane Kick apply Breath of Fire and reduce the damage affected enemies deal to you by 5%. Lastly, Exploding Keg is a new talent that is a targeted area of effect which will explode, dealing damage to players hit and will make them miss their next melee attacks within 3 seconds. That's it for Brewmaster, definitely the most changes to that spec. Let's get into Mistweaver now. So there are a couple of new spells here. First up is Invoke Yulon, the Jade Serpent. This will summon Yulon for 25 seconds, which will heal injured allies with Soothing Breath, healing the target and up to 2 allies over 4.5 seconds. Next we have Enveloping Breath, which is a new passive, which will empower Yulon and Chi-Ji to heal nearby targets with Enveloping Breath whenever you cast Enveloping Mist. This will increase the healing they receive from you by 10% for 6 seconds. That's all the base changes for Mistweaver, not too many changes there, so let's look at the talents. Mana Tea will now last for 10 seconds instead of 12 and is off the GCD. Summon Jade Serpent statue will now last for a flat 8 seconds and heal over that time. And lastly, invoke Chi-Ji, the Rated Crane has been reworked a bit. It will now summon Chi-Ji to kick up a gust of mist when you blackout kick, sunrise kick, or spinning crane kick, which will heal up to 2 allies and reduce the cost and cast time of your next enveloping mist by 33% stacking. Also, when Chi-Ji is active, you're immune to movement impairing effects. That's all for Mistweaver, a nice and quick one, so let's move on to Windwalker now. Fists of Fury is now capped to 5 targets. Blackout Kick will now reduce the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick and Fists of Fury by 1 second. Flying Serpent Kick has had its cooldown reduced by 5 seconds to 20 seconds. And Invoke Zuin the White Tiger now is a baseline spell instead of a talent. It functions the same, except for it now lasts for 24 seconds, up from 20. Storm, Earth and Fire is also now off the GCD. Let's go into talents now. So there is a new talent to replace Zuin, which is Dance of Chi-Ji. This will make it so that when you spend Chi, you have a chance to make your next spinning crane kick free and deal an additional 200% damage. And lastly, Serenity is now off the GCD. That's all the changes to the specs now, guys, so let's get into PvP changes. Not too much here either. We have Way of the Crane that has been removed from Mistweaver. Fortifying Brew has been removed from Windwalker as it is now baseline for all monks. And Reversed Harm has been reworked. It will now increase the healing done by our new spell Expel Harm by 100% and make it generate 2 chi instead of 1. And that's it. Let's look at Covenants now. Last of all, this is probably the biggest portion of this. So as everyone knows by now, there are 4 Covenants, and depending on which one you choose, you will gain 2 new abilities. One is a Covenant-wide ability, and one is a class-wide ability. The first Covenant we will look at is Kyrian. So for Kyrian, the Covenant-wide ability is Summon Steward. This will call forth a Steward that gives you a Phial of Serenity, which is a potion that will restore 20% of your health as well as remove all curses, diseases, poisons, and bleed effects. You can also talk to your Steward to change talents without a tome and gain access to a vendor to sell items. The class-wide ability is Weapons of Order. This is a 2-minute cooldown that grants you the buff for 20 seconds, and it will increase your mastery and reset cooldowns based upon your spec. For Brewmaster, it will reset the cooldown of Keg Smash and make it so that enemies hit by Keg Smash will take 5% increased damage from you for 8 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. For Mistweaver, your Essence Font cooldown is reset and heals up to 6 nearby allies for 30% of your spell power at the start and end of the channel. And lastly, Windwalker, it will reset the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick, and using Rising Sun Kick will reduce the cost of your Chi abilities by 1 for 5 seconds. Next up is Night Fae. The Covenant-wide ability is Soul Shape. This will turn you into a Vulpin, teleporting you forward 15 yards and increasing your movement speed by 50% for 12 seconds, or indefinitely if you're in a rested zone. While you're a Vulpin, you can also reactivate the ability every 4 seconds to blink forward another 15 yards. The class-wide ability is Feline Stomp. This looks very nice. It is a 30-second cooldown that does a frontal Feline that will deal damage as well as a bonus effect dependent on your spec. Your spells and abilities also have a 6% chance to reset Feline Stomp's cooldown. For Brewmaster, it will ignite the enemies it hits with Breath of Fire. For Mistweaver, it will heal allies with an Essence Font Bolt. And for Windwalker, it will rip Chi and Energy Spheres out of the enemies. Moving on to Venthia now, the Covenant-wide ability is Door of Shadows. This is a teleport that will make you appear at your targeted location and is on a 1-minute cooldown. The class-wide ability is Fallen Order. This is my favourite Covenant ability for monks. It has a 3-minute cooldown and will summon a reflection every 2 seconds for 24 seconds that will last for 6 seconds and fight for you, casting abilities based upon your spec. For Brewmaster, they will cast Breath of Fire. For Mistweaver, Enveloping Mists. And for Windwalker, they will cast Fist of Fury. Really neat getting an army of mini monks here. Last up, we have Necrolord. The Covenant-wide ability is Fleshcraft. This is a 4-second cast that will grant you an Absorb Shield equal to 20% of your health. This is increased to 50% if cast near a corpse. And lastly, the class-wide ability is Bone Dust Brew. This is a 1-minute cooldown that is an area effect that you target on the ground and will debuff all targets hit for 10 seconds. This will give your abilities a chance to affect the target a second time for 35% of their effectiveness, as well as empowering some abilities when used upon the target. For Brewmaster, your Tiger Palm and Keg Smash will reduce the cooldown of your brews by an additional 1 second. For Mistweaver, Gust of Mists will heal an additional 42% of your attack power. And lastly, Windwalker, your spinning crane kick will refund 1 chi when striking enemies. And that's pretty much it for the changes we could find. If you'd like to download any of the class recalls we used in this video, we'll provide a link down below. You can check me out on Twitch for more Shadowlands content. I'll put a link down there as well. Thanks heaps for watching. See you later.